I get asked this a lot, but it's a rhetorical question when people go, a bit like I did when that light bulb goes on and people go, oh my God, Kate, why didn't I start this sooner? Love for real. Why didn't I start this years ago?
Welcome to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, the leading weekly show to help you unlock your full self-health and wealth potential. I'm your host, Bushy Martin, and each week I go deep with the best investors, experts, leaders and founders to find out what it takes to break free from the grind, discover freedom and live by design. Subscribe now and join me and get invested in the life you really want. Let's get started.
Hi, freedom fighters. Do you ever lived in a foreign country that speaks a foreign language? Or perhaps travelled overseas for a period in a non-English speaking country? How difficult did you find it? Now, I've had the good fortune to live and work for extensive periods in New Guinea and Thailand during my days as an architect. And I can tell you that while initially exciting, it was also very overwhelming trying to cope with completely different cultures, customs and climates, all while trying to learn and speak the local lingo, where you were sort of constantly stopping and thinking about everything you heard and everything you spoke as you translated everything backwards and forwards into and from English, until eventually, after a lot of fumbling mistakes, it became second nature and you started to think in the local language, not constantly converting it in your head. And on a different but similar note, have you ever written a book? Or on a smaller scale, perhaps a thesis or a massive report? Because let me tell you from first-hand experience that writing a book is a painstaking process that requires countless hours of soul-searching and relentless blood, sweat and tears, because you're forced to get very clear on what you really believe and put your heart and reputation on the line by communicating it in a creative way that needs to be engaging and memorable. Now, this requires unrelenting resilience, dedication, painstaking research, patience, imagination, creativity, persistence, and incredible attention to detail. But you come out the other end with a much clearer and comfortable understanding of what you really believe and how to do it and communicate it. Now, I can hear you all thinking, this is all good, Bushy, but what's it got to do with property investing? Well, my answer? Everything. Because the qualities that it takes to live in a foreign language speaking country and the skills and character traits required to write and publish a good book are great preparation and the same ones you require and need to develop to become a good property investor. Both of these endeavours are very challenging marathon events, require you to willingly dive into the unknown and the uncertain, and they're environments where only the most resilient and persistent actually survive and prosper. Uncomfortable situations where you're constantly making mistakes that you learn from and regularly suffering rejection. And this is exactly what it takes to be a sustainably successful property investor. And today's guest is a shining example of experiencing all of this and more. I'm talking, of course, about our returning guest, Kate Hill. He joined us as part of a dynamic duo with Nicola McDougall back on episodes 254 and 55, when they first launched their award-winning book, The Female Investor. So make sure you have a listen to those great episodes if you haven't done so already. But for those of you who don't know Kate, Kate's an avid property investor with many years of first-hand experience buying and researching real estate and being a property coach and mentor before founding the successful national buyers agency team, Advisable. And I think Advisable is actually a great name for the business because it means to be recommended and sensible, which I think captures it perfectly. So this week we're going to dig deep into Kate's personal journey, and then next week we're going to deep dive into the intricacies of national buyers agents and refresh on her great book. So welcome. Let's get invested, Kate.
Overjoyed and honoured to be with you.
Yes, there's very few that I've got back on Get Invested, Kate. So I'm really keen to. I really enjoyed our conversation last time, and the conversations we've had in Realty Talk and whatnot in the past, I think have been really beneficial to all those who've been lucky enough to have a listen. But for those that haven't experienced any of that, can I sort of get you to kick off by telling us about what you do differently, and as importantly, why you do what you do?
So, as you so beautifully and eloquently said in your introduction, I am the founder of the buyers agency Advisable, I'm also a qualified property investment advisor, which is to me almost the most important part of that. What we do differently to many agencies out there is that we have national reach. So we don't shoehorn people into buying or investing in the area that we live in because that's easy for us. I like to think we do that because that's what's right for the client, for their budgets. And if that is Perth or Adelaide or Sydney, then that's what we do. And I do this to answer your question because I feel like I really understand what building a property portfolio can do for people. I find what I do, this sounds really corny, but I find what I do really rewarding. I love helping people achieve this, and I genuinely really love being part of their lives. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, I now sort of want to jump back into the past a little bit and get you to give a bit of a Reader's Digest on your journey so far and sort of focus on the things that you've invested your time and money in over the years and why, and how this has actually led you to where you are and what you're doing now.
It's really interesting to look back on things like that and to ask myself those questions of what have I invested time in. I would say, and I'm happy to share, I had quite a challenging upbringing in many different ways. So we moved around a lot. When you're coming back to your story of living in, living in other countries, speaking other languages. So I think I initially really tried to focus my energies from quite a young age, my energies and my focus, my resources on my education. I went on to put myself through an undergraduate degree, postgraduate degree, to just put myself in a better situation and give myself better options. I didn't have a lot of support. So it's taught me to be very self-reliant. And then at some very fortuitous stage in my life, the universe was smiling down on me and I managed to meet my husband of 27 years.
Awesome.
And things sort of reset a little bit and we worked together. So we were in England at the time, we were both living in London. And we worked together on getting ourselves to Australia for that better lifestyle. Yeah. And then we did that. And once we got here and we settled, he started his own business. We started to look to build our investments, our property portfolios. And then as I got more and more into that whole property investing things, and I saw the amazing benefits that it offered, I decided that to do that also as my career and start my own business. And I think where's that brought me really? I've always seen the benefits of sharing my experiences, especially like with family and friends as well. It's not something that often that's talked about, in groups of friends. Kind of finances can be a bit of a taboo subject. Yes. And I like to break through those kind of taboos, carefully and gently and mindfully, of course. But like I said, look, I think life experiences have just made me resilient and determined and appreciative of what I still would call my privilege, really, of just not having been born into poverty or third world country or war-torn country, or to really say, my goodness, how lucky we are.
Yeah, 100%. I guess what I was alluding to in my intro is I know that you shared with me off air that you were actually born in Germany and you speak German very fluently, and then
I do.
You went to the UK and then finally to the lucky country. Talk to me about your own experience with that, because if you clearly talk German very well, and you'd never know. Most Germans that I know, and my wife's mother is German. Yeah, it's impossible to get rid of the accent. So I would have no clue unless you told me, Kate. Can you talk to us about what that's like and how that's influenced your outlook on life and what you do and what you're in?
You can throw a bit of Spanish in there as well, because even though I was born in Germany, literally 3 weeks later, we moved across to Spain, the Canary Islands. We also lived in Mallorca for a while.
Nice.
We moved back to Germany, I think I'm just trying to remember, probably when I was about 6. So I grew up really speaking 3 languages. I went to kindergarten and preschool in speaking Spanish. And then we went back to Germany. But my mum always spoke to me in English. My dad was the German one. He spoke to me in German. So I had family on both sides of the equation. And we were living in Spain, where you're surrounded by Spanish. And this is back in the late 60s, early 70s really, when this was happening mainly. And so when you grow up in that environment, it's normal, you know, it's not something special until you move back at the age of 10 to the wilds of Birmingham in the middle of the UK. and there was a bit of an accent on the German side, but I think when you read literature about children moving and changing languages or speaking another language as a native, it's kind of 10 is about that cusp of when you do and don't lose an accent.
Yes.
So, but because I'd spoken English with my mum my whole life up until the age of 10, when we did then actually move to England, I did have a bit of an accent, but I think I lost that allegedly quite quickly. I don't remember, to be honest with you. I know I was at school a complete curiosity, you know, this strange little bird of paradise who's fluttered into this school in the middle of Birmingham next to Cadbury's chocolate factory, would you believe? And it was an interesting experience. It was hard leaving all my friends and family in Germany. But I think, again, because we'd moved around so much, it was kind of a normal thing to do. Oh, okay, this is the next thing that we're doing. So you just kind of get on with it.
Yeah, I'd love for you to share how you think that moving and mixing in cultures actually, and the upbringing that surrounds that affected who you've become, Kate.
Becoming, I think, very aware and adaptable and, dare I say, empathetic, really just aware of the difficulties that there can be, that people do have, that it's not the same everywhere, that people don't all think like you do. In different, even here in Australia, you know, within Sydney, even, you know, where I'm sitting. So just, I think it would help. And I think that is changing in the world. The fact that we do travel a lot more, we do become more aware of other cultures, but in order for us to all understand each other and not keep invading and throwing bombs at each other, I think it would help a lot of us to just remember that we all have the right to think differently, and we do all think differently for a number of different reasons, and that doesn't make one person right and the other one wrong.
Love that. That sort of acceptance of things is a great thing.
Yeah, have to. Yeah,
the sort of core values and beliefs that have come out of that upbringing. What are some of the key ones, and how do they continue to influence what you do and how you do it?
Interesting question. I would say I always like to be, I'm not sure if this is because of my upbringing, really, because I am who I am. And like I said to you earlier on, I considered it the norm just to move around, to be able to speak multiple languages. It was just what I did. I didn't think really it was much of it. It hasn't really been anything special. But I always have tried, and I always do try to be open and honest, to never put on like a false front, or an act, you know, to never compromise really on integrity, especially when it comes to business. I think with me, what you see is what you get. Literally, there's nothing hidden. And I always want to be able to hold my head up high, to know that I've done the right thing by people, whoever that is, that you meet in life. And how that, I guess, what was the other part, how that might have influenced things or how it impacts me today. I think, to be completely honest, it might have held me back a bit in business.
It's more a long-term view, though.
Yeah, it's totally. I think if I for the want of a better expression, I do sort of believe in that karma that, if you do the right thing, it will come back to you 100%. Differently, right? So, which perhaps we get into a little bit later, certainly on the business side. So, but I just need to be able to sleep at night, know that I work with people who I respect and trust. And I think that will also attract like I say, in business, the kind of client that I like working with.
Yeah,
so that's it.
Really. And we'll come back to that shortly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Something that I always like to put people on the spot with on Getting Invested is what's something unique or interesting about you that you've never actually shared publicly before, Kate?
Well, I'm not sure it's really that unique. Or that interesting for some people, but I love a good long distance run. I'm a marathon runner. There's, I was thinking about this. There's a bit of an ongoing joke out there that, how do you know if somebody's running a marathon? And the answer is, they'll soon tell you. That's it. They love talking about it. So I make a big point of not making a big deal about it, but it does, like, especially when you're training for it, it takes over your life. It's a way of life. It isn't something I do talk about publicly a lot because I just can feel everybody's eyes glazing over. God, here she goes. But it's my thing. And I will, you open those floodgates, watch out, because I will talk about it for the next 2 hours.
Well,
stop me there.
Yeah, no, and that's really interesting because as I sort of alluded to in the intro, I've worked with a lot of marathon runners over the years in the property space, and I think the reason that they do so well is that the resilience, the patience, the persistence, and the determination to overcome what is unsurmountable challenges for the average Joe, because it's just too bloody hard. It really says a lot about your character and how you think about life and how you live life. So really good to share, I think.
People tend to just look at you like you've gone crazy. But I like to do it for exactly that reason, because it's a challenge, because it does mean you have to overcome the voices in your head that go, what the dickens are you doing? What? I'm like, no, we're doing it. Come on, just get on with it. We're doing it. And we're going to enjoy it. Not only are we doing it, we're going to enjoy it. Yeah. So you have that conversation with yourself multiple times over that kind of distance. It's like, some crazy person talking to themselves as they're pounding the pavements. But that's me. But it is that determination. It's, do it because you can do it and enjoy it. It's just the joy of it. And I know a lot of people who, for a number of reasons, can't. And I never, even when it hurts and I've had enough and it's raining and it's cold and I'm, again, what the dickens are you doing out here, you foolish woman? Never forget that there's people who can't, and be grateful for health. It's huge. It's huge. So I will do it for as long as my body will let me.
Well, what I'm hearing already from what you've shared with us is that you like challenging yourself, clearly. And a lot of people, I think our biggest challenge as a civilization now is that we live in a comfort zone that very few people even want to try and work without. It's a bit of a crisis of comfort as a result of that. But if we look back on the journey so far, then what challenging event in your life do you think has brought about your greatest learnings and your best changes then, Kate?
I feel like there's been quite a few. It's hard to pick just one. That sounds really dramatic. I think really one that does, I do come back to, I guess it's more of a period in life rather than a single event. It's really two events. And when I was at university, I was 21. I lost my best friend. He passed away. He was also 21. It was after quite a long illness. And obviously distraught, And then a few months later, my father passed away as well. And it sounds corny, but it really gives you that appreciation for what we have, just making the most of every day. Tell the people you love that you love them. It's not a unique message, but, don't try not to sweat the small stuff too much. It's just don't whinge when things don't go your way. You have a little whinge, sure, but, then enough, let's move on. Let's make it happen. You're allowed a little whinge. You're allowed a little whinge.
Yeah, if you listen to my good wife, Sonia, Kate, she says, okay, you've got 60 seconds.
That's right.
Go on and
move on. I know, that's right. That's her German heritage, can I just say?
That's right. No, that's really good.
Get on with it. Yes.
Let's focus on, and this is a question I like to ask guests now: is what do you still struggle with?
I think work-life balance. But I say that, is it a struggle really? Because I do love what I do.
Yeah.
I enjoy what I do. But I know that sorry, I've just had another thought. It's just that when I'm then seriously in marathon training, I make time for it, right? It depends on your priorities, right? Or I've signed up for some crazy event running, that I do this event where you run 1,000 kilometers over 3 or 4 months, I forget. But in your own time, it's a virtual thing, and there's a big group, and it's amazing, and it's fun. It's fun. Don't look at me like that. All the podcast listeners, you want to see the look on the face. I'll soon make time for it, right? But I think work can take over. But in my defense, I do love it. And a lot of the clients I have, they feel it's family, it's friends, you do become part of people's lives. So that's my defense. But if I have to pick a struggle, that would be yes.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Switch it off, Kate. Switch it off at times.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is self-justification from me, Kate, but I think work-life balance is bollocks. If you're actually doing what you enjoy doing, then how do you differentiate between what's work and what's play? It's pretty much the same thing. That's right. So, but I might be slightly biased in that regard. I want to sort of pivot now and talk about, start talking about money and investment. And to sort of kick that off, I always like to get your thoughts on what does money mean to you, and has that changed over time?
What does it mean? It means to me, I think, freedom to, so you phrase this as well, freedom to design how you live your own life, not to be beholden and to do what I want with my time the way I want to do it. That's key. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. And even if I did, well, then that's my choice, but I don't. For the record, I don't. But it's freedom, it's in every sense of the word. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on. It's definitely the oil that lubricates everything in life and particularly our Western system.
Look, having said that, it depends on your priorities. I know quite a few people who don't have very much, and they're the happiest people. Doesn't always make you happy.
No.
So, but it does give you freedom.
Yeah, freedom and happiness, I think, are two very different subjects.
Yes, agreed.
One's fleeting and one can be enduring depending on how you approach it. But okay, well, I'd now like to jump into your own property journey, and you share some of it back when I spoke with yourself and Nicola a couple of years ago. But I guess where I'd really like to start with this now, because, and you probably see this the same with investors that are looking to invest in property for the first time, I keep saying it's the start that stops most people, because what's in their head prevents them from actually taking the leap and really burning a lot of time that could otherwise be building their wealth. So I'd love for you to start off by talking about why did you decide to invest in property and what triggered your interest? And then as a flow on from that, what were your initial fears and feelings of concern that were perhaps holding you back?
Yeah.
How did you overcome those to actually take the leap?
You're going to have to repeat that second half when I went with the first half, right? Like going around in the goldfish bowl. Yeah. I've got to tell you, this is what a geeky nerd I am. I love anything to do with finance, right? And investing and all that kind of stuff. Like, I swear to God, I am never happier, talking about sharing things publicly, I'm never happier than when I've got, like, on a Saturday morning and I've done my run and I've got my coffee and I'm sitting there with the AFR, the physical, actual paper, and I've got my coffee and I'm looking things up and I'm researching things and I'm like, like a kid in a toy shop. I love it. It's genuinely, I find it fascinating. I love learning how the world works in that way.
Is that something that's always been there, Kate?
Yes,
it is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think because of my background, it's been my quest for independence and security in a way, from that perspective. The once I've met, the emotional side of things is different, but they're interlinked, obviously, in certain ways, right? One can sort of feed and support the other, but yes, always. And I think I chose property to start with because, like so many people, this is probably going to sound a bit boring, but for so many people, it was just something I found easier to understand, to be honest. When I first got started, I understood that the banks will lend you more money against bricks and mortar, so the leveraging was better. For the control freaks among us, that's me, I'm pointing at myself. I found it was something I felt I had more control over.
So what was it? Because I remember from our chat back when we spoke with Nicola on the book that you had sort of in your 40s before you bit the bullet.
Yeah.
What was holding you back, and what were your any fears that you had, or before taking that leap, and what allowed you to overcome them?
Okay, so just rewind. When you say my 40s, again, in my defence, I was at university forever because I did a postgraduate degree, and I worked my own way through uni. So I had about 14 part-time jobs while I was studying, I was teaching, and so I didn't really leave uni until I was about 29. I was working. It was kind of the first career.
Yeah.
And I had these great intentions to be a university lecturer and blah. But of course, I've got 14 part-time jobs and I'm earning no money. I'm getting government support. I didn't really actually start working for a living with a proper job until I was 30.
Okay.
And it took then a while to be in that mindset for me. And I guess, again, bringing the background into it a bit and moving intercontinental moves to put ourselves, and obviously I was with John then by that point, to put ourselves in this situation financially and mentally to be ready.
Yep.
So initially the fear was around the amount of money involved. It's not just 10,000 in shares, it's $600,000-$700,000.
Yeah.
It's obviously a less liquid asset. So I think there is a perception out there that it's a mistake that is not easily undone. You can't just click your fingers and sell the same day, right? It's a physical asset. Again, that things can happen to. Somehow I think that perception is different to shares, that obviously things can happen to too that are completely out of your control. But it's just people feel more comfortable with the property because they often, not always, but they often already own one, or at least they've had exposure or open exposure to their parents who may have owned a property. It's more accessible to people. And I'm totally average like that. Nothing unique about me that way.
Well, and I know you again, back on our first catch up on Get Invested, you gave a bit of a a fairly detailed breakdown actually of your portfolio. So what I'd like to do now, if we can, is because I want to focus on how your thinking and your strategy changed over time and why, and interweave with that what you bought and where that's led you to in terms of what your portfolio currently looks like. Can you sort of run us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're here, right? So once we bought our principal place of residence in Australia, I moved forward fairly quickly once that leap was taken. I moved forward fairly quickly to build up a portfolio of 8 properties. I probably bought them, I want to say, within 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
But I did have a lot of equity. I was in a different situation to many people these days starting out. So we'd sold a flat in London. We had a lot, we bought the property almost outright. Well, we did buy it outright with cash. We did renovations. So there was a lot of equity. We're both working, even though John had started his own business. So we were able to service all these loans over that time period. So
you just help me out, because from memory, I think you're in Adelaide when you first hit the Aussie shores.
Yes.
Those 8 properties over that 2 or 3 year period, what do they look like? Are they houses, units? Is it growth?
Mixture. It's a mixture. So 2 units in Queensland, but also 2 houses in freestanding houses. Everything else is freestanding houses, and they're scattered. So I've got one in Perth, one in Victoria, New South Wales, obviously South Australia, because we've retained that property as an investment. So they're kind of scattered to the across the states. Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
So
yes.
What I'd love for you to share then, Kate, because what I see, and you would see this as well, is that as property investors' knowledge increases and their comfort and clarity increases, the strategy tends to change over time. So, often it's initially very cautious, but as that grows and they're more comfortable with it, then different strategies get implemented. Can you think back and talk to us about what was the initial strategy and how has that evolved and changed, and what does it look like now?
Yeah, so it hasn't changed hugely, I'll tell you that from the outset. So having built up that portfolio of properties, it's again pretty boilerplate. So it's really going through an acquisition phase, having a consolidation phase, and where I have been actively paying down debt. That, to me, has really been the game changer. But it was always part of the strategy, so that initially just acquiring, but managing cash flows so that you can afford to hold these properties for the long term. It was about making certain compromises at the time to be able to keep all the properties, to get them to the point where they're earning an income. And I didn't, rather than not compromising now and just solely relying on capital growth, paying down investment debts, like I say, to me, is a game changer, especially when you combine that with getting it really, really right, and getting great capital growth, right? It really gets you financially free a lot sooner. I'd say perhaps the way it has and is changing is that I started out really thinking, well, I'm never going to sell. I'm just going to keep them forever. Why would you? And also, I think there's a light bulb moment that goes on when you first start to do this, especially when you're managing your cash flow well and you're in great growth areas. When you go, oh my God, why isn't everyone doing this? And B, I don't think I'm ever going to stop. Just keep going, keep building, and you have to kind of talk yourself, well, when is enough? And then you've got spouses who go, what are you doing enough? Whose risk profiles might be different to yours. So like I say, I started out sort of thinking, well, I'm never going to sell. Now I am more open to that. I think, sometimes there is a right time to sell. I'm kind of on the fence with it. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? Sometimes it's very much appropriate to sell. Depends on your circumstances, time of life, where the properties are, how they're performing, all these kind of things. So I'd say that would be the biggest change would be more open. I think people need to realize that you can have a plan. You need a plan. I'll probably maybe talk about that a bit more later, but you need to have a plan, but be open to the fact that that plan might change 2 or 3 times it will, I'll tell you that now. It will change as you change, as circumstances change. So, and living through that happening, it kind of forces you to maybe not necessarily change strategy, sort of fundamental strategies, but in terms of tweaking things as you go, you have to be open to doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'd like to refer to it as a GPS, not a fixed roadmap strategy.
Yes.
Your needs change, the circumstances change.
Yeah.
You need to be open to it and then but able to course correct when needed to be to
That's right.
still focus on the end journey.
Absolutely. And look at COVID, look at the things that that happening, look at the things that the universe throws at us and will continue to throw at us. There'll be other things that will happen, I think it's naive of us to think it won't. There'll be other things, either politically or, climate things or whatever, there will be other things that happen. So on the one hand, you kind of need to not be derailed. And yet on the other hand, you've got to kind of, it's like surfing the waves, right?
100%. Yes. Totally agree. If you look at your portfolio then, it sounds like it's a mix of houses and units of capital growth and cash flow property. So there's a balance amongst that, and it's spread across the country. So you're clearly walking what you talk in relation to being a national buyer's agent, because you've actually physically bought properties across the country in your own right. If you reflected on all that, what would you think's been your best and worst investment so far, and what have you learned from each of those?
My word. Well, I guess moving out of the property sphere just for a second, really, in terms of buying shares, one of the best decisions, when you keep feeling like you've missed the boat. But I bought a ton of shares in April 2020 in Australia, and then in May 2020 in the USA. And you can just imagine, we all know what happened in March 2020, right? Yeah, COVID pandemic hit. My God, I wish I'd bought more. But, I am proud of myself for being that brave, because there was so much fear and uncertainty out there I know this is hard to say about myself, but here I go, to boldly go, to swim against the stream, to go against, ignore what was being said in the press, not ignore, but to just, be kind of okay, be aware of the noise, but to go, what, this will end. It will, it's not going to be the end of civilization. To have that kind of confidence somewhere in there and to go and do that anyway, I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I think that is a lesson that everyone, I'm hoping other people did too. I'm sure many people have over the courses of their lives learnt that lesson, but I think that's key, to ignore some of the white noise out there and proceed anyway. Property-wise, my God, I wish I'd bought more. Easy to say in hindsight. Property-wise, I think the best, really, that's tricky, because I've actually got the failures are standouts. They are like glaring, flashing, neon with us? Beacons, mining town in Queensland.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I got the area really, really wrong. I focused way too much on cash flow at the expense of capital growth. I talked myself into thinking that investment was not as risky as it was, right? I had blinkers on because the cash flow was so good. And I kind of wanted it to be a good, diverse area. and it wasn't, and it isn't. And not only that, I bought it right at the top of a cycle. So, literally within 12 months of me, maybe 18 months of me buying it, having this awesome cash flow, rubbing my hands together with glee, going, oh God, this is amazing. Why isn't everyone doing this? I think my rent's dropped by $200 a week.
Wow.
And we're not talking high value assets here. I mean, thank God I knew the limits of my own risk profile in terms of my outlay and what I was prepared to pay for these properties at the time.
Are we talking Gladstone or Pye? That's
Gladstone.
Okay.
So, I only spent, I think, 350 something thousand on it, right?
Yeah.
But I was getting $480 a week in rent.
Yeah.
At the time.
Wow, that's massive.
Yeah, and it's taken, I don't know, 12 years. I'm now getting $340 a week in rent again.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's after it coming, down, and now we're on the way back up again.
Yeah.
So, but learning why that happened, getting a bit cocky at the time, thinking, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've got this.
Yeah.
Clearly not. Thought I did at the time until it happened, and then I went, oh, why? Whoa, hang on, what's happened here? And learning from that it's key. And I tell all my clients, I'm very open about it. I've been there. I've made the mistake for us. It's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again. I know why it happened.
Yeah.
So, but again, the other, the other six properties they've all, I'd say equally, they've been great. They've all at minimum doubled in value.
Well, what would you the best one? If you pick the
don't make me pick one of my phone. Don't pick. You're making me pick out of my children.
Yeah,
it's not.
right.
No, it's not. It's.
Come on.
Well, when you say define best.
No, you're
throwing it back.
You're going to define best, and then tell me why it's best.
Why is it best? Why is it best? Okay. I'm going to go Moreton Bay, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house in Moreton Bay.
Yeah.
That I bought at exactly the right time in terms, it was just before it boomed. That area really boomed. Everywhere good has boomed after to take COVID out of this equation.
Yeah.
I bought just before a really good upswing. I bought for $276,000.
Wow. And
the yield was okay. It wasn't wonderful, but didn't have to be. And it's a slightly older property, so it's a sort of mid-90s build. So it's a little bit different to some of the others I'd bought, which were new. I was getting better depreciation, cash flow.
Yep.
That property that's 2.5 times what it's worth now. I did have a period of, I'd say a couple of months, a few years ago now, where it was vacant for a little while, but I sort of zhuzhed it up, gave it a bit of a paint and carpet, and we were good to go again. But it's been a consistent performer.
Yeah, I love that.
A lot of that area is, it is. Sorry, we can get into that another time, I guess. But it's been consistent, and a really good. I like it because it's future proof as well in terms of property type. Again, perhaps there's time for that kind of stuff later. Yeah. Now that you've made me choose, I'm sorry to all my others that I love equally.
No, I love that, and thanks for sharing that, because it's there isn't an investor that hasn't learned some lessons along the way. We're serious about it. We're always looking at our children and sort of guiding them and giving them the right direction when we need to.
But also, I think because of what I now do for a living, it gives you. You have to have those insights when you do this for a living. For when you're buying property for people, you have to have had those experiences so that you can say, no, we're not doing that because of this, and this. But we are going to do that because of da, 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 da. So, and I know we all have to start somewhere, but you have to have had those experiences.
Yeah.
It's good and bad.
100%, 100%, because we're investing in property, but we're also investing in our knowledge and our expertise.
Yeah.
experience that goes with it. And I guess talking about that, Kate, you know, as a buyer's agent who has a national footprint, you've been doing it for a decade now, in essence, so working with a lot of investors on that exercise. What do you now believe to be the keys to successful investment, and why?
Okay. As I alluded to earlier, planning. I think you have to have a plan in place before you just start looking at properties on realestate.com. I know that's the fun part, but if you don't have a plan, you're not going to know how much to spend, what your cash flow. You need to have a plan and a strategy in place so that you are at least starting with a draft of a roadmap that's going to get you from point A to point B, like you guys do, right? It's crucial. You've got to make informed decisions. I think that's key, really understanding your investment options, all the risks, the benefits, obviously, too, but your goals. You've got to align all of that with your individual or, family objectives, so that then you know what to start looking for. Not necessarily what area, but, what the bigger picture stuff. In order to do that, leads me to, I guess, the second one, which would be using an expert team to help you. I'm not saying this out of vested interest, but you need someone like me. You need a qualified property investment advisor. You need to get good advice. Why wouldn't you pay for good advice when your financial future is at stake here? Why wouldn't you do it?
Wow.
Sorry, was the question about investing in general or about property investing?
No, it's
investing
really,
in general.
Yeah. Well, no, I think focusing on property really.
Yes.
What's key in the property arena is
get experts to help you. You need a good mortgage broker who does mortgage planning with you. It's sort of a one-off loan that you're getting, but planning for the right loans. I have been scuppered by the wrong loan structure. That I think was more beneficial for not beneficial to me. Was less beneficial to me. And I thought I was getting good advice. You need a long-term perspective. So I think this whole get rich quick and soon and young, it's clickbait, it's catchy, I know it's appealing, but you have to adopt a long-term plan and investment horizon, if you like. So it really allows for those compounding returns to happen so that you're not taking unnecessary big risks. What else? The consistency, be consistent, be disciplined, follow your strategy. I have to say, one property is not going to give you financial freedom generally. In terms of managing risks, depends on the price of the property, of course, but really these are fairly basic concepts though, right? Diversification, so that you haven't got all your eggs in one basket. And I mean that really across the asset classes. If one investment performs not that great, others can offset that. You can sort of manage things as you go. And I'd say also, finally, risk management it's so important. Know your limits. Preserving, managing risk for preserving capital, having buffers in place. How do I start? The risk management thing is a huge topic, but have the right insurances in place. People rush off and get their homes and cars insured, but they don't insure themselves.
Right.
When you're building, multi-million-dollar property portfolios, you've got to do it. Sleep at night factor. 100%. I think those are key. And a lot of that is really you're laying foundations. You're laying foundations. You're making a plan. You're developing a mindset that keeps you on all of that keeps you propelled forward. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. We could talk about it for hours.
No, I agree.
But,
I agree. There are some fundamentals there. And I guess the thing I'd like to sort of dive into a little bit, which you touched on earlier, and I'm seeing this increasingly, Kate. I'm not sure about yourself, but the sentiment factor and the media noise that is probably more so now influencing people's decision making than anything, because I'm seeing a lot of this herd activity and either FOMO or fear and greed driven exercise. What's your thoughts on, because I've always been a bit of a contrarian in that regard. If it's the old Buffettism of, be greedy when people are fearful and fearful when people are being greedy. What's your take on that? And what advice would you be giving to anyone listening in about how to have the fortitude and the resilience to make good decisions despite what might be happening around them?
If you have laid all that groundwork that we just talked about, I think you're halfway there. You're halfway there. And if at the same time you are blocking, stay informed. Obviously, I'm not saying don't read things, but I'm almost saying it. Don't read things. Don't read the papers. There's me with my coffee in the AFR. But I think I have enough of an awareness about me to know when I'm being sold to, when something isn't well-researched information.
Yeah.
And I think one of the problems that we have at the moment is, probably not just at the moment, we've had it for a while, but this whole 24-hour news cycle thing, the moment anybody breathes, it's a press release. And these things aren't often based on actual researched facts by well-paid independent journalists. It's just content, and they're desperate for it, and they need clickbait. And I know, again, I'm not saying anything revolutionary here, but you've got to keep in mind the reasons why this, whatever the information is or whatever you're reading, why that's out there. It's inevitably just to get you to click. It's self-promotion. It's not fact-based, really genuine information. So you need to learn to discern between those things.
100%.
And that's, I think if you can do that, be mindful, of course, be aware of what everyone else is doing, but you cannot let that guide what you do. You can't. They're not. No one cares about your money more than you do. I assure you that the articles in the Australian Property Investor magazine, they're not looking after your financial interests. They're looking after their own.
100%. No, I heard a great expression the other day, which you'll probably appreciate given what you just shared, but I heard that we're living in the post-truth fake news era.
Absolutely.
Because anything goes. Anything goes.
It does. It really does. I know. And with the advent of AI, which is magnificent, don't get me wrong, I'm an ardent user. I love it. Yeah. But we really, more than ever, like you say, we need to be mindful of where the information is coming from. So who's generated it and for what purpose? Yeah. And how do you use it? Or do you have this block, this shield around you, where things bounce off in a Star Wars kind of way?
Just let the good stuff get through.
Yeah, feel the force from within, not from without.
Yes, spot on, well said. Before I jump into the first of our bushfire lightning round, Kate, reflecting back on what you've shared with us, if you were starting out again, what would you invest in differently, if anything?
I think I would have put way more money into shares than I have.
Okay.
There's probably, I certainly wouldn't have been buying in Gladstone. Sorry, Gladstone, I'm sure you're beautiful. But I would choose the area, my locations differently. And I would definitely, I was going to say I would definitely be less concerned about cash flow, but that is easy for me to say now, not 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was a different place, different situation. So again, hindsight is easy, but I would say, I would try and be a lot more objective, even though I thought I kind of was at the time, but I wasn't.
Well, it's touched on before. It's about the evolution of your understanding of the whole investment environment.
Yes.
And that increases, so your decisions then change and evolve with it. So, beautifully said. All right, I now want to jump into the first of what I call the ambush round, Kate, or the bushfire lightning rounds, where I give you the blindfold and cigarette and then pepper with you with a few questions. And the first of those is, what's your favourite song and why?
Just one?
Just one.
Okay. Band called Rush. They're a Canadian rock band. I worship them. Don't anyone email me. I worship them. That's it. The end. They're the best. They did a song. It's an instrumental called Leave That Thing Alone. And it is, it's just beyond magnificent. It showcases what masters of their instruments they are and creative genius.
Yeah,
that's it.
Love it, Matt. Beautifully said. Nice little leverage into this one. What superpower do you wish you had and why?
I would pick, I'd like to be able to teleport, beam me up, Scotty, beam me across, Scotty. Oh God, wouldn't it be efficient to just go back to the UK and Germany? I know.
Hey, I want to have a look at Townsville tomorrow.
That's right. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Just some efficiency, exploration. Think of the places you could explore, and environmental impact way less. None of this carbon footprint business. Like, click, and you're there.
Love that.
Awesome.
Now, the next one, if you could have coffee with anyone, whether they be alive or a dead historical figure, who would you and why?
On a personal level, because I love learning so much, I'm going to go and have a really strong Italian coffee with Mr. Leonardo da Vinci. The dude was a genius. He was into everything. Like, his thirst for knowledge was insatiable, right? And what he knew and what he understood, just to be in that aura, God, you'd be fired. Can you imagine how fired up you'd be? You'd come out of that, you'd come away from that coffee shop, and you'd be taking over the world.
The universal. He was my childhood hero. I was a nerd, but he was my child because he could write with both hands. He could start with the left and then continue with the right. The stuff that he created architecturally, art-wise, just
engineer. I know it's a whole other podcast, but
it is. Yeah, we might do that one day. Last question in the round for part one. What would be the title of the book about you if your worst enemy wrote it? You probably don't have too many enemies, but if they were, what would be the title?
Now, I did get a heads up on this question, right? I'm allowed to say that, right? And yeah. I smile because the answer to this question literally popped into my head within seconds, right? I didn't even have to think about it. It was just there. Okay, so the title of that one would be, the Prince Harry book, Spare, and then there's the subtitle, right? So mine would say, Relentless. She never stopped asking questions.
Beautiful.
Yeah. The vision came to me.
Well, the closing question in the first part of our chat then is a great flow on from that as well. What's the one question you wish people would ask you?
Oh, it's a good one as well. I think I'd have to sort of pick. I guess I get asked this a lot, but it's a rhetorical question when people go a bit like I did when that light bulb goes on, and people go, "Oh my God, Kate, why didn't I start this sooner? Love for real. Why didn't I start this years ago?"
Yeah,
it's a why. You tell me.
Yeah, and we all think it.
We know why. We do. Oh my good God, why wasn't I in that headspace when I was 25? Yeah, I wasn't, but I was.
The good news is, as Warren Buffett is a great example, it's never too late either. So we've got the will and the way. There's always so don't think that you've passed the exercise or there isn't the opportunity there. It's just a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people and having a big enough timeline. Look, right. I really want to thank you for taking the time out to share the ins and outs of your own personal journey in more detail today, Kate. And before we close off, if anyone would like to ask Kate or any other property professionals any further questions on their property approach, or you'd like to discuss anything we chatted about with other like-minded investors in a very safe, relaxed and no-pressure environment, I want to welcome you to join us and Eddie the Frenchman on our Facebook Property Hub Collective Facebook page. Just click the link on the show notes, and we look forward to connecting with you and continuing the conversation there. We now look forward to continuing our deep dive chat with Kate in next week's episode, where we're going to further unpack the ins and outs and pros and cons of buyer's agents in particular, along with more gold that Kate's going to share from the Female Investor book. So remember to always get invested, and we look forward to talking with you again then, Kate.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
tuned for part 2 of this interview next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, your home for property investment insights and inspiration. And don't leave yet until you've taken the next step towards living by design by getting my award-winning book, Get Invested, absolutely free when you sign up at knowhowproperty.com.au or bushymartin.com.au. And finally, make sure you subscribe to Property Hub to get your weekly dose of Get Invested inspiration, along with every episode of Realty Talk, Australia's leading property show for red-hot property investing news and insights, direct from industry leaders and influencers. Remember to always get invested in your knowledge, and I look forward to seeing you next time.